Thank you. President Biden's approval rating is soaring. It's up 13% all the way to 48%. Does it bother the president that people are so pleased that he is retiring?
Am I hearing a little twang in your voice, Peter? A little something in your...
I know better. No, but you guys keep telling us to appreciate him on the way out about the Inflation Reduction Act and things like that.
I'm glad that you listen to me when I'm up here. Look, here's what I can say. I think what the American people appreciate is indeed what we have been able to do in the past several years. When you think about inflation is falling with income while incomes are climbing, right? You think about Medicare is finally being able to negotiate lower drug costs. This president, this administration has been able to beat Big Pharma. That's a big deal. Other presidents have tried to do it. Other elected officials have tried to do it. They can't get it done. Manufacturing is indeed coming back here to America. Our infrastructure is being rebuilt. Violent crimes is at a low, 50-year low. Matter of fact, the last president in his last year, murder rates were skyrocketing. And so the president has been able to work on that. And this is a president and a vice president that has done the work to make Americans' lives better, to make their lives better, to change their lives in a transformational way that is going to matter. And I think that's what the American people want to see, and that's what this president has been able to do.
A different topic. Vice President Harris once said years ago that she wanted to decriminalize illegal border crossing. Now she's saying that her values haven't changed. And so how much ownership does she have for this latest NYPD stat that 75% of arrests in Midtown Manhattan lately have been migrants?
My goodness, there was a lot in that question. I mean, look, just going back to the values, and obviously the vice president can speak for herself, and her campaign will speak for herself, for her. Her values haven't changed, and you heard that on the interview that she did with CNN very recently, and I think that's important. I think someone's values matter, and that's what you see from the vice president, and certainly that's what you see from this president. Look, as you're talking about the New York, I believe it's the New York Post report, as you just stated, look, you heard directly from the New York Police Department. They put out a statement which was reflected in that story. So just want to, in your story, so we want to be really clear. So I would refer you to the spokespeople who spoke to this. And I would say more broadly, we fundamentally believe this administration, including Harris, because this is the Biden-Harris administration, believe that anyone found guilty of crimes should be held accountable. That is something that we fundamentally believe. And you have heard us say that we welcome local law enforcement support and cooperation in apprehending and removing individuals who pose that risk, who pose a national security risk. And so that's what we welcome. I would refer you to the New York Police Department. They actually spoke to this and kind of spoke to that number that was being used, and I would refer you to them.
And so my last question then would be, if the vice president's values have not changed, why have so many of her positions on policies changed?
I would say look at what the vice president has done with this president the last 3.5 years. Look what we have been able to do. Look what we've been able to do at the border without much help from Republicans, because they're too busy listening to the former president, sadly, and telling them not to actually do the things that majority of Americans want to see them doing, and that being dealing with the challenges at the border. They listen to Donald Trump instead of continuing to work with us in a bipartisan way. That's what they chose to do. That's on them. But because of the actions that this administration has taken, we have seen those actions lead to numbers going down at the border. And that matters. And that's because of the work that we have done. And, and you heard me talk about the economy, what the president and this vice president have been able to do. We cannot forget what the Biden-Harris administration inherited when they walked into this administration. A once-in-a-century pandemic, people were dying. Thousands of people were dying a day. And the last administration, the Trump administration, didn't bother to leave a comprehensive plan on dealing with the pandemic. They didn't bother. They were too busy. He was too busy telling people to inject bleach into their bodies. That's what he was doing. Meanwhile, this president and this vice president passed the American Rescue Plan. Only Democrats voted for that. And because of that, we're able to open up schools. Because of that, we're able to open up businesses. Because of that, we're able to put some checks in pockets for people who really needed it. Who really needed it. Think about the child tax credit. That changed lives for families and put shots in arms. And so that is why we have an economy that is growing. That is why we have an economy that is leading the world. And those are just the facts.